You're lying still as the last light fades, and the jungle begins to breathe. The canopy turns to shadow, and every leaf seems alive with hidden motion. But which big cats move like ghosts beneath the trees? How do forest elephants quietly shape the future of entire forests? And why do tiny insects build vast empires that hold the jungle together? Welcome to Nature Nap. I'm John, and tonight we'll explore the living labyrinth of the jungle, from primates and parrots to snakes, bats, and blooming flowers, discovering the most relaxing facts about a world where every sound tells a story. So close your eyes, let the jungle guide you. The jungle exhales as the sun melts into the horizon. Leaves glisten with the last hints of light, and shadows deepen into velvety pools. As darkness folds across the canopy, the air begins to stir with countless layered voices, each threading into the next, forming a restless yet oddly soothing choir. In these first breaths of night, the jungle reveals its hidden self. The dusk chorus swells almost imperceptibly at first. Insects begin to strum their wings, weaving a soft static hum. Frogs soon add their bright liquid notes, scattered like beads of water across a vast bowl of sound. Birds, some reluctant to let go of the day, call out their final sharp cries before silence claims them. The overlapping of insects, frogs, and birds creates a strange equilibrium, where every note seems to fill a gap, and nothing is left bare. It is less a cacophony than a woven fabric, binding dusk into night. As the last embers of heat fade, mammals drift into movement. Many jungle creatures avoid the punishing glare of the day. The cooler air and heavier humidity at night are their invitation to step out. Slow rustles along vines and quiet footsteps on leaf litter hint at the opening of another shift. Nocturnal mammals emerge like secrets made flesh, seeking food, water, and each other. Their rhythms do not clash with those of the day. Instead, they extend the continuity of life, ensuring the forest never falls entirely still. Moonlight, faint and fractured by thick foliage, shapes these journeys. A silver cast here, a shadowed trunk there. Predator and prey read the light differently. The panther slips where beams are broken, blending into deep shade, while deer and rodents prefer the subtle brightness, where movement is easier to detect. The moon's phases dictate more than tides. They set the tempo of survival itself in the branches. A clouded sky slows activity, while a bright full moon sharpens vigilance. The canopy, under lunar glow, becomes a theater of cautious steps. To the careful eye, or the trained beam of a naturalist's torch, the night unveils another truth. Eye shine, light caught and reflected back, reveals presence before shape. Tiny emerald glints hint at tree frogs clinging to leaves. Larger amber reflections belong to cats, pausing to scan the dark. The color and intensity of eyeshine are not mere curiosities. They are biological adaptations, tuned to the light the animal expects to live within. To walk through the forest at night is to walk through a constellation set not above but all around, with stars of fur, scales, and skin gazing silently back. Treefall gaps, scattered like breathing wounds in the forest, shift the patterns of night. Where a tree has fallen, the open space invites a cooler draft, a movement of air that draws moths and bats alike. Predators quickly learn these highways, waiting where breezes funnel creatures toward them. The gap is more than absence. It is a corridor, a brief clearing where animals converge under the dim light. Over months, saplings will surge upward, but for now, it is a stage where wind, scent, and hunger interact. All of this happens in a way that defies linearity. The forest at night is not a sequence, but a pulse, simultaneous and layered. What we hear, what we glimpse, is only a fragment of what pulses beneath. Every sound and shimmer carries with it the suggestion of unseen movements. Ants tunneling below roots, owls gliding just above the treetops, unseen moths leaving dust across petals. The canopy at night is less an image than a living current. And in this vast orchestration, you begin to notice the division between sound and silence is porous. The quiet between calls is as alive as the calls themselves. Silence is not empty, it is listening, waiting, holding space for what comes next. That silence too belongs to the canopy, as surely as the chirp or growl. Perhaps that is why nightfall in the jungle feels so complete, because it is not only what we sense, but also what escapes us. Every shimmer of eyeshine, every brush of air in a treefall gap, reminds us of how much stirs beyond our grasp. If dusk can transform a forest into 1,000 voices at once, What hidden transformations unfold within us when night arrives? In the dense fabric of the jungle, where shadows twist and vines drape like ropes across an endless ceiling of green, primates claim their quiet dominion. They are the watchers, the singers, the restless movers of both dawn and dusk. To listen for them is to hear a kind of forest heartbeat, measured in calls that stretch for kilometers and gestures almost invisible in the dim canopy. The first sound that breaks across the sleeping forest is the bellow of a howler monkey. Low, resonant, and astonishingly loud, it can carry for several kilometers, swelling over valleys and slipping between ridges. To us, it may sound like thunder from the chest of some colossal beast, but to the forest it is simply communication, a way for families to mark their presence, to declare boundaries before light sharpens the competition for fruiting trees. The effect is both eerie and grounding, a reminder that the forest belongs not only to what we can see but also to what vibrates unseen through the air. The power of the howler's voice is a testament to breath, to lungs evolved not just to survive but to resonate with the size of the landscape itself. In quieter corners, capuchins show another way of mastery. Smaller in body yet sharp in wit, they move from palm to palm with hands that mimic our own. They are among the few tool users of the forest, selecting stones to crack open stubborn palm nuts. The work is slow, deliberate, and requires both memory and patience. Each strike echoes faintly, blending into the natural percussion of falling seeds and cracking branches. It is in these small rhythms that survival is written, intelligence turned into calories, persistence turned into nourishment. Watching them reminds us that problem-solving is not solely human, that thought can be embedded in fur, fingers, and eyes, just as easily as in us. And then there are the tarsiers, delicate night hunters, whose enormous forward-facing eyes glisten with reflected starlight. Their gaze is so wide, so intensely fixed, that it seems to carry the whole of the jungle within. With sudden leaps, they catch insects mid-flight, movements too quick for the eye to fully follow. They live on a threshold, half spirit, half predator, bound to the tiny wing beats of moths and beetles. The tarsier's world is one of whispers and flickers, a realm where survival depends on detecting what barely exists. It is a reminder that in the forest, size is not the measure of mastery, perception is. As night folds into the earliest blush of dawn, another primate voice enters, the duet of gibbons. From high perches in the canopy, they sing in pairs, weaving their calls into a rising lattice of sound. To hear them is to sense devotion, not only to territory, but also to each other. Their songs map the morning, carrying across valleys, announcing not aggression but presence, a declaration that this space is inhabited, loved and defended. Their duets bind families as much as they divide territories, carrying both intimacy and strength. The gibbon's voice is lighter than the howler's thunder, yet it clings to the air with equal power, a shimmering thread of sound that seems to pull the sun itself toward the horizon. Spider monkeys, agile acrobats of the canopy, play another role entirely. With long limbs and tails that grasp like an extra hand, they bridge gaps no branch could safely span. Their movements are silent compared to the songs of others, but their service to the forest is profound. Each time they feed, plucking a fruit, chewing part of it, and letting the rest fall, they become gardeners. Seeds tumble to the forest floor, where they may sprout into new life, far from the parent tree. Spider monkeys do not intend to sow forests, but they do so nonetheless. Their hunger is the forest's future, scattering green across generations. To follow primates in the jungle is to follow both sound and silence, brilliance and stillness. Each species embodies a different answer to the question of survival. Thunderous calls that warn and claim, nimble fingers that create tools, unblinking eyes that see in shadow, duets that honor bonds, limbs that plant forests unknowingly. They are kings not because they rule, but because they live fully in the branches, shaping them with voice, movement, and need. When dawn spreads its pale light across the canopy, the echoes of their night remain suspended in the leaves. The howlers fall quiet, capuchins scatter with new tasks, tarsiers retreat into hollow safety, gibbons still sing, spider monkeys drift toward fruiting grounds. It is a cycle written not in hours, but in calls and leaps, in hushed exchanges between bodies and branches. And as the forest brightens, the thought lingers. If these voices and gestures shape the jungle, what unseen gestures of ours shape the worlds we walk through? The jungle understory is a place of muted light, where the sun filters through heavy layers of leaves until it dissolves into shifting patches of shadow. It is here, in this dim corridor of trunks and tangled roots, that big cats move with a presence almost beyond sound. Their paws land on soil softened by centuries of falling leaves, and their muscles ripple beneath patterned coats designed not for display but for disappearance. To watch them is to see stillness given shape, silence given purpose. The jaguar is the most secretive of them all, favoring the densest cover, always close to water. It is a creature of paradox, massive, muscular, yet capable of slipping unnoticed between lianas and reeds. The jaguar waits at the edge of rivers, near oxbow lakes or swampy bends, patient as the earth itself. Its ambush is not rushed but calculated, every breath controlled, every twitch stilled until the moment collapses into power. The presence of water is no coincidence. Where rivers curve and currents slow, prey gathers, and the jaguar's mastery reveals itself in stillness, broken by sudden force. Leopards, though less common in the New World, carry their art of vanishing even further. Their rosettes, those broken circles of black and gold, fracture their outline so completely that the eye cannot separate them from the flickered light of leaves. One moment the understory seems empty, the next the pattern resolves into a body that has been there all along. Their gift is to teach us how invisibility is not absence, but perfect blending. To look for a leopard is to doubt your own sight, to realize how much a forest can hold without offering it up. Clouded leopards add yet another twist to this quiet lineage. Stockier than their cousins, they carry elongated canines, curved like echoes of ancient saber-tooths. Their real mastery lies in the trees, where they can climb down trunks head first, a feat of balance and claw unmatched by larger cats. They are ghosts between worlds, moving from branch to ground, from canopy to undergrowth, with equal command, where other cats prefer the flat pathways of earth. Clouded leopards claim the vertical, weaving space in 3 dimensions. Watching them reminds us that the forest is not only wide but also deep, a layered labyrinth where mastery means adapting to every angle. Even in their stealth, cats often borrow from human presence, trails cut by boots or machetes, or even older paths trodden by villagers, become corridors for the silent. A jaguar may pad along the same trail, walked hours earlier, turning human disruption into feline advantage. In this way, they are opportunists as much as hunters, folding our own imprints into their ancient strategies. To imagine walking such a path in the moonlight, unaware of the golden eyes pacing just out of sight, is to sense how human and non-human movements overlap, sometimes without our knowing. And then there is the jaguar's bite, a force unlike any other cat. Where lions and leopards suffocate their prey, the jaguar pierces. Its jaw is so powerful, it can crack the armored skull of a turtle or puncture the thick bone of a caiman. It does not waste time with soft tissue, but goes straight for the kernel of survival, breaking through the hardest barriers. This singular method is brutal only in its efficiency. The jaguar is not cruel, it is direct, cutting to the heart of what sustains it. To think of this is to realize that strength can be quiet until the very last moment, and then it leaves no question of its presence. In the hush of the understory, these cats are less predators and more embodiments of patience. Their lives are not an endless string of hunts, but long stretches of watching, waiting, blending. They survive not by constant violence, but by rare precision, by knowing when stillness should break into motion. Their coats carry patterns as ancient as river eddies, designed by light itself. Their paws leave prints that rain can wash away in minutes, as though they were never there. Yet their influence runs deeper than tracks, shaping the very behavior of prey, bending the flow of life around them like unseen gravity. To imagine the understory without cats is to imagine a silence missing its anchor, a shadow without weight. They are not only hunters but regulators, ensuring the balance of deer, capybara, peccaries. Without them, vegetation would shift, seedlings overgrazed, rivers eroded. Their presence keeps the entire system in rhythm. The jaguar, the leopard, the clouded ghost, they are both the absence and the necessity, the invisible scaffolding of the forest's order. And so, as the night stretches on and the leaves stir with faint breezes, you feel a strange comfort in knowing they are there, unseen but shaping everything around them. They remind us that true power does not always need to be visible, that the most commanding forces in life often move in silence, waiting for the exact moment to reveal themselves. If a cat can pass through the forest unseen, yet change its balance completely, what unseen patterns of our own shape the lives around us in ways we never notice. In the dim green corridors of the jungle, where trunks rise like pillars and vines loop in endless spirals, the quiet tread of elephants reshapes the forest. They are not simply travelers, they are gardeners, engineers, and carriers of futures wrapped in seeds. Each step of their broad feet presses softly into the earth, and each pause to feed rewrites the story of trees and vines that will rise after them. When elephants move, they disperse the largest seeds in the forest. Fruits too massive for birds or monkeys are eaten whole, carried in great stomachs along miles of wandering. Hours later, those seeds are set down intact, far from the mother tree, planted in a bed of rich soil mixed with dung. Their survival depends on this journey, on the willingness of elephants to roam, to wander great distances without maps. In this way, an elephant herd becomes a living river of renewal, flowing through the jungle with pockets of green potential trailing behind them. The dung itself is more than waste, it is fertile soil in waiting. Within its steaming mounds lie not only seeds, but also nutrients recycled from leaves, bark, and roots. Insects gather quickly, beetles rolling and burying, fungi threading their way through the moist richness. Soon sprouts emerge, saplings nourished by what elephants leave behind. A single pile becomes a nursery, an unexpected clearing where life restarts. The forest breathes in cycles, and the elephant is one of its lungs. Their voices too play roles less obvious, but deeply connected to the web of life. Subsonic rumbles travel farther than any human shout, rolling beneath the earth itself. Through these vibrations, herds stay in contact across thick vegetation, guiding calves, coordinating movements, warning of danger. What seems silence to us is, in truth, threaded with low conversation, an underground dialogue of giants. It is a reminder that much of communication escapes our ears, that the forest is full of exchanges we are not tuned to receive. At certain clearings, where mineral-rich soils break through, elephants gather in great numbers. They come for salt, for nutrients hidden in the earth, but also for something less tangible: community. Families meet, calves explore, older bulls circle and display. These gatherings are loud with trumpets, but also tender, filled with touches of trunks, gentle nuzzles, and unspoken recognition. The forest clearing becomes both dining hall and parliament, where bonds are reinforced as much as stomachs are filled. These places, known for generations, become the heartbeats of elephant society. Even their paths, worn into the earth by centuries of use, are more than mere trails. They are highways for other animals. Tapirs follow, deer wander, predators stalk along their edges. Birds use the corridors as hunting lanes, darting into gaps for insects flushed by movement. Over time, these trails carve themselves into the very design of the forest. Persistent even when herds pass less often, a single path might last decades, guiding life in directions chosen long ago by elephants, who now exist only in memory. The elephant's role is not one of dominance but of balance. Without them, the forest would slowly tighten, choked with trees never spread, gaps never opened, soils never enriched. Their absence is a silence that echoes, a missing breath in the system. To see them is to understand that survival is not only about taking, but about giving back in ways unmeant, yet essential. There is a softness to their strength, a patience in their scale. They move without hurry, feed without waste, rest with a calmness that seems to belong to time itself. Watching them reminds us that power does not always demand violence, that influence can be quiet, slow, and enduring. They shape futures by simply living, by walking, by eating, by rumbling in tones deeper than our senses can hold. In the stillness after their passing, when the path is quiet and the forest seems to close again, one feels the imprint they leave behind, not just in footprints but in possibility. Seeds sprouting in their shadow, trails open for others, echoes lingering in the ground. To sense their presence is to sense continuity, the way life threads itself forward with patience. If elephants can shape the very future of a forest simply by wandering, what unseen seeds are we carrying, and where will they take root long after we have passed? As the first hints of morning creep into the jungle, the forest bursts into a chorus that feels almost orchestral. Birds are the composers of this soundscape, each voice adding a note, a rhythm, a texture. They thread the canopy with calls that stretch across species, each tuned to its own niche of frequency, pitch, and time. To hear the dawn chorus is to hear not chaos, but a deliberate layering, as though the forest itself were weaving song into its own daily breath. One of the most curious architects of this life is the hornbill. These birds nest in hollow trees, where the female is sealed inside by her mate with mud, leaving only a thin slit through which he delivers food. Within this chamber she incubates eggs, feathers replaced in safety, while her partner works tirelessly outside. The image is both confinement and trust, a partnership in which survival depends on faith and steady nourishment. It is an extraordinary risk, yet it works, ensuring young are raised without intrusion, shielded by a wall of earth and devotion. Far below, along riverbanks and clay cliffs, macaws gather in vibrant flocks, their bodies blaze in reds, blues and yellows, a palette so bold it seems the forest itself is wearing celebration. They descend to clay licks, where they dig and swallow earth, a strange behavior that may neutralize toxins from the seeds and fruits they devour. The sight of dozens of wings flashing against the sky, only to fold as beaks press into soil, is a paradox of brilliance and pragmatism. Even their beauty is tied to necessity, a vivid example of survival cloaked in color. Above, a more silent power reigns, the harpy eagle. Among the largest raptors on Earth, it builds nests high in emergent trees, vast platforms woven of sticks and lined with greenery. Its prey includes sloths and monkeys, creatures heavy and agile, yet no match for the harpy's talons, which can outsize a human hand. To glimpse one is to glimpse the ancient lineage of flight itself, a predator as old as myth, descending not with chaos but with absolute precision. The harpy's shadow reminds the forest that no height is free from watchful eyes. But not all birds rely on strength. In the shaded undergrowth, manakins practice a very different art, dance. Tiny and brightly feathered, males gather on small courts cleared of leaves, where they leap, flip, and snap their wings with sharp sounds. These performances are rituals of attraction, rehearsed endlessly, repeated with near perfection. A single wing snap can echo like a finger click, a subtle signal, amplified by rhythm. Their stagecraft is a reminder that beauty itself can be survival, that the jungle values not only power but also artistry. In the midst of all this variety, mixed species flocks wind through the branches, a moving mosaic of cooperation. Birds of different shapes and colors travel together, their combined eyes and calls, reducing the risk of predation. One species flushes insects, another snaps them mid-air, while a third keeps watch for hawks. The flock becomes more than the sum of its parts, a living demonstration that even in the fiercest ecosystems, safety can be shared. To see them weave through the canopy is to witness a river of feathers flowing above the forest floor. Birds embody contrast. They are guardians and artists, predators and performers. Their wings thread the forest with invisible highways, linking rivers, ridges and valleys. They eat seeds that later fall as trees, sing notes that ripple beyond their own kind, and paint the canopy with colors that seem almost imagined. They are at once fragile, light bones, delicate feathers, and formidable, capable of journeys across continents and flights through storms. As the day lengthens, the dawn chorus settles into more sporadic calls. Some birds vanish into silence, conserving energy. Others continue their performances, their wings or songs echoing faintly against the thickening heat. The forest quiets in layers, yet the memory of the morning's voices lingers, a residue of sound in the air. What remains after the birds still is a sense of interconnectedness, that every color, every call, every wingbeat shapes the forest. They remind us that beauty and necessity are not opposites but companions, intertwined in the delicate economy of survival. The hornbill's sealed nest, the macaw's clay ritual, the harpy's precision, the manakin's dance, the flock's shared safety, each is a different answer to the same question: how to live and thrive within this endless green. If birds can weave song, color and movement into the very fabric of survival, what unseen artistry are we weaving, knowingly or not, into the fabric of our own lives? The jungle hums with a sound so constant, it can vanish into the background, a low vibration stitched by wings, legs and hidden throats. Insects are the engineers of this pulse. They are small in form yet immense in influence, turning leaves, wood and soil into architecture, food and future. To follow their paths is to glimpse how countless tiny decisions build the great body of the forest itself. Consider the termite mound, rising from the ground like a sculpted tower. It is neither random nor fragile. Each mound is designed with a system of vents that regulate temperature and airflow, keeping the interior stable despite the heat outside. Within, thousands of pale bodies move with singular purpose, tending fungus gardens that transform chewed wood into nourishment. These structures are not mere shelters but cathedrals of air and soil, built grain by grain, a form of architecture born without blueprints, yet perfected over millions of years. Not far away, columns of leaf-cutter ants march like rivers in motion. They carry fragments of green above their heads, each piece appearing as a sail in a procession that stretches deep into the forest. Yet they do not eat the leaves. Instead, they carry them underground to cultivate a delicate fungus, trimming, feeding, and tending it as carefully as a farmer might till soil. The entire colony depends on this crop, an agriculture older than human civilization, thriving beneath our feet in the dark chambers of the earth. To watch their endless flow is to see patience multiplied by thousands, an empire of tiny farmers. But not all insects carry a gentle touch. Among them is the bullet ant, a creature small enough to perch on your fingertip, but infamous for the intensity of its sting. To those who encounter it, the pain can last for hours, a burning that has earned the insect a place in ritual and myth. Yet the bullet ant does not sting needlessly. Its defense is a message. Fragile bodies can house extraordinary power. Its presence in the jungle reminds us that size is no shield against significance. Meanwhile, stick insects choose another path entirely: invisibility. With bodies shaped like twigs, complete with knots and scars that mimic bud scars, they sway in the breeze to enhance the illusion. To find one is to question your sight, to realize that movement itself can be a mask. Their strategy is not attack but absence, blending so fully into the foliage that they dissolve into it. They live not by confrontation but by erasure, teaching us that survival sometimes means becoming indistinguishable from what surrounds you. And beneath the moonlight, dung beetles labor with quiet persistence. They roll spheres of waste much larger than themselves, pushing them across soil and leaf litter, burying them as both food and nursery for their young. In their small, tireless way, they recycle nutrients, carrying fertility back into the ground, ensuring seeds sprout and soil thrives. The forest depends on their uncelebrated work. To watch them is to witness devotion, strength in miniature, persistence so complete it reshapes the earth itself. Insects remind us that scale does not measure importance. Their worlds may be measured in inches, but their actions ripple through miles of canopy and soil. They build, cultivate, sting, hide, and recycle, each act echoing into the grand design of the forest. Without them, the air would stagnate, the soil harden, the trees falter. They are both the chorus and the scaffolding, at once background and foundation. And when night falls deeper, their sounds swell louder, a ceaseless static that is also music. It is the forest breath in miniature, layered vibrations that remind us life is always moving, even where our eyes cannot see. If insects can shape entire worlds through persistence too small for us to notice, what quiet, unseen labors of ours are shaping the lives around us in ways we may never realize? When the first drops of rain strike broad jungle leaves, a new orchestra awakens. Amphibians rise to the sound of water, as if the sky itself were their conductor. They are rain singers, its interpreters, its most delicate disciples. With skin as porous as parchment and voices that ripple through the night, they embody both vulnerability and resilience, balancing between water and air. Among them, the poison frogs stand like vivid lanterns scattered across the greenery. Their colors, scarlet, cobalt, golden, shine against the muted earth, not to entice but to warn. The alkaloids that course through their skin are borrowed from their diets, gathered from tiny ants and mites, transformed into chemistry that defends them. The brightness is a signal, touch me at your peril, and yet beneath this shield lies a creature no larger than a thumbprint, its brilliance both shield and story. Their presence tells us that beauty can be armor, and that danger may be written in colors too striking to ignore. In contrast, the glass frogs are creatures of transparency, their bellies so translucent that one can see the steady pulse of organs within, a beating heart, a shifting stomach, the very machinery of life revealed. They cling to leaves overhanging streams, their bodies seeming less like animals than moving fragments of water and light. To look at them is to be reminded of fragility, of how much life hides beneath opaque skin. Yet in this vulnerability lies a kind of honesty, nothing concealed, everything laid bare. They are living whispers of the hidden workings we carry in ourselves. Amphibian fathers, too, show devotion in ways quiet but profound. Many males guard clutches of eggs laid on leaves, staying near to ward off insects and drying air. They moisten the eggs with their own bodies, ensuring they do not desiccate before hatching. When tadpoles emerge, some carry them gently on their backs, delivering them to safer waters below. In the stillness of night, one can glimpse this silent parental service, a tiny body bearing dozens of smaller ones, a pilgrimage of care across dripping leaves. The rains themselves are signals to begin. At the first heavy downpour, entire forests erupt in chorus, Frogs of every shape and hue call in overlapping waves, each song distinct, yet blending into a collective roar. Some croak in low resonant booms, others trill in rapid chirps, still others whistle as if summoning winds. The cacophony is not confusion but timing, each call linked to breeding opportunities born of the rain. Puddles, streams, and temporary pools become arenas of hope, where voices compete, overlap, and dissolve into the night's wet breath. Beneath it all lies the constant struggle against drying. Amphibian skin must remain moist to breathe, and the leaf litter where many live holds pockets of humidity like fragile lungs. Each fallen leaf, each layer of decaying matter, shelters microclimates essential for survival. Remove the litter, and the amphibians vanish. Protect it, and their songs continue. Their dependency on these small refuges teaches us that survival often hinges on details, so subtle they go unnoticed by all but the most attentive. Together, amphibians embody a spectrum, from dazzling poison to transparent stillness, from solitary guarding to communal singing. They bridge land and water, fragility and persistence, silence and thunderous chorus. Their lives are tuned to the rhythm of rain, their bodies shaped by the balance of moisture and air. Without them, the forest would lose one of its most essential symphonies, the sound that marks renewal after the dryness, the voice of the earth when kissed by sky. To sit in a jungle rainstorm and hear their chorus is to feel both humbled and reassured. Humbled because each small call carries the weight of survival, reassured because their collective voices make the night feel alive, less empty, more whole. They remind us that presence does not require size, that influence can emerge from the smallest lungs, the softest skin, the briefest song. If frogs can summon entire forests into song with voices no larger than a raindrop, what hidden notes within us might awaken worlds we cannot yet hear? In the hush between rainfall and dawn, when mist clings low and branches sag with moisture, reptiles reveal themselves not through noise, but through presence. They are the stillness within movement, the silence that waits beneath leaves, the patient rhythm of a jungle that never hurries, covered in scales that glisten faintly in dew. They belong to time measured not in hours but in centuries, their lineage older than the canopy itself. The great constrictors, boas, and pythons move with a patience that unsettles those who expect speed. Their bodies, thick as logs, ripple in a slow wave across the forest floor, guided not only by sight but by senses hidden in their faces. Along their lips lie tiny pit organs that detect the heat of living bodies. Even in total darkness, a warm mouse, bird, or monkey is outlined in an invisible glow. They do not rush toward this signal. They wait, coiling with purpose, releasing power in a single decisive strike. To imagine such vision is to imagine perceiving the world not as light and shadow, but as pulses of warmth, each creature glowing softly in the dark. In sudden contrast to their stillness, the basilisk lizard explodes into motion when threatened. Small and unassuming at rest, it bolts across water with an impossible grace, toes fringed to slap the surface in rapid succession. For seconds it runs on liquid, a miracle of physics transformed into survival. Locals call it the Jesus lizard, a name half reverent, half amused, but the truth is simpler, adaptation at its most startling. In the jungle where danger comes from ground, sky, and water, the ability to skim across all three is not miracle, but necessity. Further up in the branches, a chameleon's world is stranger still. Its eyes, turret-like, move independently, scanning two directions at once, weaving a panoramic awareness few predators can match. One eye locks on a passing insect, the other roams the canopy, watching for threats. In a heartbeat, both align, and the tongue shoots forward with unerring precision, faster than sight itself. Their colors, shifting with mood, light, and social signals, are not only camouflage but language, subtle broadcasts painted on skin. They remind us that communication need not be sound, that meaning can ripple silently across the surface of a body. Down by the river, caimans lie like statues, their ridged backs half submerged, eyes resting just above the waterline. By day they bask on banks, warming their bodies, but by night they slip into water as hunters. They move with little disturbance, bodies built for patience, jaws closing with a suddenness that erases the line between stillness and violence. Mothers guard their nests fiercely, carrying hatchlings in their mouths to water with surprising gentleness, each tiny body cushioned against teeth capable of crushing bone. They embody the paradox of reptiles, formidable strength paired with quiet care. To walk the jungle is to walk among these paradoxes, Reptiles embody endurance, waiting, suddenness, and secrecy. They teach that stillness can be as powerful as speed, that silence does not mean absence, and that patience may shape survival more than force. Their bodies glimmer like ancient armor, yet within them lies sensitivity, heat sensors, shifting hues, protective instincts. They are not cold, though cold-blooded. They are tuned to the world's warmth in ways we rarely imagine. The forest depends on their presence, subtle though it may be. By controlling rodent populations, snakes protect seeds. By guarding waterways, caimans shape river ecologies. Even the fleeting dash of the basilisk stirs predators, guiding energy through the food web. Each reptile carries an influence disproportionate to its silence, proof that balance often rests on the least celebrated forms of life. As mist fades and light strengthens, most retreat again into hidden alcoves, beneath roots, into burrows, under leaves. They are less often seen than heard, and less often heard than simply felt. A sense of something older watching from the periphery. Their patience continues even when ours cannot. If reptiles can turn stillness into survival, and silence into influence, what might our own stillness hold, waiting beneath the noise of our lives? As darkness deepens, and the last birds quiet their calls, a new rhythm fills the jungle sky. Shadows flicker between trees, wings soft as whispers, moving in arcs and spirals, invisible except for the faint rustle of air. Bats are the hidden night gardeners of the rainforest, carrying pollen, scattering seeds, and stitching together the canopy with flights unseen by most eyes. They are both fragile and tireless, each wingbeat sustaining the cycle of forest renewal. Among them, nectar-feeding bats hover before pale blossoms that open only under moonlight. These flowers are designed for them, wide-mouthed, heavy with nectar, emitting scents that sharpen in the cool night air. As the bats sip, their fur brushes pollen pads, transferring grains from one bloom to another. What seems like a sip for sustenance is also a gift to the plant, ensuring that seeds will form. Some orchids and cacti rely entirely on these nocturnal couriers. Without their hovering visits, the flower's beauty would end with fragrance alone. The night's quiet partnership becomes the future's foundation. Their flight is guided not by sight alone, but by sound echolocation. From their throats emerge pulses of ultrasonic calls, too high for our ears to register. These sounds bounce off leaves, branches, and insects, returning as echoes that form a living map in the bat's mind. Through this map, they weave intricate paths through tangled understory, avoiding vines and finding prey. The forest at night is cluttered, chaotic, almost impassable for vision alone, but for bats it becomes a symphony of signals, every surface speaking back. They hear the world in a way we cannot, a perception built not on light, but on reverberations. Fruit bats take another role, spreading the forest in every direction. They pluck small fruits, often while hanging upside down, stripping them of pulp before discarding the seeds. Sometimes, they carry fruits far from the parent tree, dropping seeds mid-flight or in distant perches. Each seed is a possibility, carried farther than birds or monkeys often manage. Over centuries, these flights shape the very distribution of trees, guiding diversity across rivers and clearings. To watch a fruit bat vanish into the night with a berry is to watch the forest itself being planted one flight at a time. Even the places bats choose to rest carry quiet meaning. Their roosts, hidden caves, hollow trees, the folds of broad leaves, balance safety, warmth, and cleanliness. Colonies cluster in tight spaces, warmth shared body to body, while constant grooming and wing stretching keep parasites at bay. To an outsider, a roost may look chaotic, wings folded and unfolded, squabbles breaking the silence, but to them it is an ordered society. Here mothers nurse pups, adults groom one another, and generations overlap. It is a reminder that even in darkness, community thrives. Bats are misunderstood creatures, often feared for their shadows and silent flights, but within the jungle they are indispensable. They pollinate flowers that bloom unseen, scatter seeds that take root in distant clearings, and keep insect populations balanced. Their absence would unravel connections too subtle to notice until they were gone. They are proof that power may lie in numbers and in repetition, thousands of flights, countless wing beats, year after year sustaining what feels eternal. To sit in the jungle at night and feel a breeze of wings pass above is to glimpse a vast hidden labor. You do not see the flower dust carried on fur, or the seeds swallowed and dropped in a clearing, but you feel the movement, the presence of life above your head, shaping futures silently. Bats teach us that unseen work may be the most essential. that the quietest gestures can sustain entire worlds. If bats can remake a forest with nothing more than flight, nectar, and patience, what landscapes might we be shaping in silence without ever noticing? In the hush of the tropical night, when leaves shimmer faintly beneath moonlight and air hangs thick with moisture, flowers open their hidden doors. Some bloom in daylight, flaunting colors like painted fire, but others wait for darkness, unfolding secrets when the forest quiets. Their strategies are not passive. Each petal, each scent, each glow is an invitation, a deception, a bargain struck with the creatures of the night. Among these, the bat flowers stand as some of the strangest. Their dark whiskered blooms arch outward like shadows, releasing musky scents that drift across the night air. They are not meant for eyes but for noses, for the senses of bats searching for nectar in the gloom. When a bat brushes against the flower's long filaments, pollen clings to its fur, carried to the next blossom. What appears like ornament is function, a delicate structure designed to hook into the rhythm of wings and fur. These flowers bloom not for beauty, but for survival through partnership. Others use deception of a darker kind. Carrion mimicking blooms unfurl with scents sharp and unpleasant, imitations of rotting flesh. Their surfaces may even produce heat, amplifying the illusion, drawing in flies and beetles that seek decay. The trick is complete. Fooled insects crawl inside, brushing against pollen they will carry away. In this arrangement there is no nectar, no reward, only deception. Yet the cycle continues, sustained by need and confusion. It is a reminder that survival in the forest is not only about generosity, but also about disguise, about telling a false story convincingly enough to endure. Some orchids take mimicry further still. Their flowers release perfumes nearly identical to the pheromones of female insects. Males, lured by scent, attempt to mate with the petals, brushing against pollen in the process. What might seem absurd is, in truth, an ancient dance of chemicals and instinct. Orchids thrive not through brute strength, but through the precision of imitation, their delicate forms masking strategies as ruthless as any predators. They are storytellers of survival, writing their narratives into fragrance itself. Then there are the night-blooming cacti, whose blossoms open only for a few brief hours after sunset. Their petals spread wide, luminous and fragrant, drawing bats and moths that hover in the darkness. By dawn, the flowers close again, their work complete. The timing is critical. Open too early, and the heat of day will wither them. Open too late, and their pollinators will have passed. This fleeting life makes their beauty more poignant, a reminder that some wonders are meant to exist only in the margins, short and sufficient, perfect because of their impermanence. For insects that see in ways we cannot, many flowers bear ultraviolet nectar guides, patterns invisible to us, but radiant to compound eyes. These marks lead pollinators directly to the heart of the bloom, ensuring efficiency, conserving energy. What we see as a simple petal is, to a bee or moth, a runway marked in glowing lines. The jungle's flowers thus speak in colors beyond our spectrum, messages hidden until revealed by the right vision. The forest is filled with such signals, coded communications that exclude us, reminding us that the world is richer than what our senses admit. Taken together, the flowers of the jungle reveal a constant negotiation: attract, deceive, entice, sustain. Their forms are not merely beautiful but purposeful, every angle designed by evolution's quiet hand to meet the needs of birds, bats, insects, and winds. Beauty is a side effect of survival, a shimmer that catches our eye but exists primarily to bind other species to their service. And yet, in the humid dark of the rainforest, this utility becomes wonder, a tapestry of strategies woven through fragrance and light. To walk at night and pass a flower releasing its perfume, invisible but insistent, is to realize how alive the air is with intention. Every scent is a signal, every blossom an invitation, whether honest or false. They are voices of the plants, silent but persuasive, convincing animals to carry their lineage forward. If flowers can turn fragrance into language, light into guidance, and fleeting hours into survival, what languages are we speaking unknowingly, through gestures and traces we leave behind? The jungle is not only a place of survival, it is also a place of transport, of constant journeys carried in beaks, stomachs, and paws. Seeds, tiny packages of potential, are always on the move, carried by the creatures who feed and wander. These are the fruit roads, invisible highways that stretch across branches, rivers, and clearings, shaping the forest of tomorrow through the appetites of today. Few trees play as central a role as the fig. Unlike others that fruit once a season, figs produce asynchronously, each tree offering its bounty at different times. This staggering of abundance means that at almost any moment, somewhere in the forest, figs are ripe. For monkeys, birds, bats, and countless insects, the fig is a lifeline, sustaining them when other foods vanish. Its fruit becomes more than nutrition, it is stability, a thread of continuity in an environment where cycles of scarcity are constant. In feeding animals year-round, figs keep the forest's pulse steady. Among the animals walking these roads, the tapir is a quiet giant. With its long flexible snout, it plucks fruits whole and swallows them without effort. The seeds, too large for most other dispersers, pass unharmed through its body, deposited far from the tree of origin. Because tapirs follow habitual trails, their dung often scatters seeds in fertile soil, sometimes miles away. Each path they walk is lined with new saplings, a green echo of their nightly wanderings. They are gardeners without intent, but the forest owes much of its diversity to their routines. Birds carry seeds differently, often dropping them from favored perches. A toucan or tanager may gulp a berry, pause on a branch, and let the seed fall below, where it takes root in the light. Over years, clusters of saplings rise beneath such perches, forming miniature groves that trace the feeding habits of birds. Even something as simple as where a bird chooses to rest becomes a blueprint for the forest. The air itself becomes a planter, raining seeds disguised as waste. For many seeds, passing through an animal's gut is not only harmless but essential. The process thins or scratches their coats, allowing water and soil to reach the embryo more easily. Germination rates climb when seeds are digested, their journey through stomach acids acting as preparation for new life. The animal gains food, the seed gains a better chance to grow. This exchange, silent and invisible, binds the futures of tree and creature together. The forest grows not in isolation, but in shared metabolism, one body nourishing another, one life beginning as another continues. Ecologists sometimes map these invisible flows as seed shadows, patterns of dispersal that radiate from a parent tree depending on who eats its fruit. A monkey may scatter seeds in wide arcs through the canopy, while a bird clusters them at roosts, and a tapir leaves them in linear trails. The forest mosaic is partly a reflection of these movements, a living map of animal behavior. To look at the forest is to look at the memory of appetites, etched in wood and leaf long after the eaters have moved on. These fruit roads are highways not of stone, but of hunger, carrying tomorrow's forest across the bodies of today's animals. Without them, seeds would fall only at the base of their parents, struggling in shadow, competing for light. Diversity would shrink, resilience would falter. With them, the forest spreads outward endlessly, stitching clearings, rivers, and ridges into a single vast continuity. Walking among seedlings in a tree-filled gap, one can imagine the paths of tapirs, the flights of birds, the restless foraging of monkeys that brought them there. Every sapling carries a story of movement, of passage through another life. These stories are written not in words but in roots, in leaves reaching upward, in the quiet persistence of green returning. If seeds can travel entire landscapes inside stomachs, carried by hunger into new beginnings, what possibilities might we unknowingly be carrying within ourselves, waiting for the right soil to take root? The jungle breathes not only through trees and leaves, but also through rivers that wind like living veins across the green. Their rhythms are not steady but pulsing, swelling with rain, shrinking with drought, shaping every life that leans against their edges. To live in the rainforest is to live by the river's mood, for when the waters rise, the forest itself changes. With the seasonal floods, boundaries blur. What was once solid ground disappears under brown, swirling water. Fish swim through submerged roots among tree trunks and vines, in a forest turned into liquid labyrinth. Nutrients wash from soil into streams, and nutrients wash back again, fertilizing both water and land. For months, the division between river and forest dissolves, creating one vast ecosystem of exchange. It is here that animals adapt in ways unimaginable, navigating worlds that change shape each year. Among the giants of these waters is the piracaw, one of the largest freshwater fish in the world. Its scales are armor, its body a living relic from deep evolutionary time. Unlike most fish, it breathes air, rising with a heavy gasp at the surface, a sound like bellows in the night. In flood seasons, this adaptation becomes its gift, allowing survival in stagnant, oxygen-poor waters. To hear that gasp in darkness is to know the river is alive with creatures both ancient and enduring, breathing in rhythm with the sky as much as the current. Not all navigation is left to lungs. Electric fish hum through the water with fields invisible to us, but essential to them. These pulses guide them through the murk, mapping obstacles and detecting prey. Each fish is a beacon and a receiver, a body wired into its environment by electricity itself. In a world where sight is useless, they read space with currents, turning the opaque into a living map. Their perception is a reminder that what seems unknowable to us is daily knowledge to others, that the river holds languages we do not yet speak. On muddy banks, caimans guard their nests, heaps of vegetation warmed by decomposition. The mothers stay close, their eyes gleaming just above the water. When the eggs hatch, the calls of the young reach her through soil and grass, and she responds with unexpected tenderness. Carefully she gathers hatchlings into her mouth, carrying them to the water. Between teeth capable of crushing bone, tiny bodies rest unharmed, shielded by the strength that might otherwise destroy. Here the ferocity of predator becomes the gentleness of protector, another paradox folded into the jungle's design. Deeper still, river dolphins slip through currents, their pale bodies gliding with an ease that seems more dream than motion. They forage by echolocation, sending clicks that bounce off submerged roots and stones, guiding them to fish hidden in the cloudy water. Legends rise around them, spirits of rivers, tricksters, guides, but their reality is simpler and more profound. They are creatures shaped entirely by the river's shifting pulse, their lives an echo of floods and flows. To glimpse one at dusk is to feel the boundary between myth and truth dissolve, just as land dissolves into water. The pulse of the river is more than a cycle. It is a heartbeat that ties everything together. Floods feed fish, fish feed birds, birds scatter seeds, and trees stabilize the banks that hold the river in place. Remove one link, and the whole chain weakens. Keep the rhythm intact, and the forest endures in green abundance. The river is not separate from the jungle. It is its breath, its blood, its reflection. To sit at its edge as the waters swell, to watch trees half submerged and hear the splash of unseen bodies beneath, is to feel part of something larger than sight. The river teaches patience, reminding us that change is constant, that cycles return, that loss can also mean renewal. If a river can shift from land to flood and back again, carrying entire forests in its pulse, how much of our own lives is shaped by unseen tides, rising and falling beyond our control? The jungle is a place of spectacle, brilliant feathers, loud calls, blossoms that glow in moonlight. Yet beneath that display lies another truth. Survival often belongs to those who are unseen. Camouflage and mimicry are the quiet arts of the forest, strategies that erase bodies into background or transform them into something else entirely. To walk through the undergrowth is to move through illusions, a place where what you see may not be what it is. Take the leaf insect, a masterwork of imitation. Its body carries not just the green of a leaf, but its veins, its ragged edges, even the small holes left by a chewing caterpillar. When it sways in the breeze, the illusion is complete, a leaf among leaves, indistinguishable unless it moves. To find one is to doubt your eyes, to question how perception can be so easily deceived. Its life is lived in this trick, survival depending on invisibility, so precise it becomes identity itself. Caterpillars, too, bend reality with their disguises. Some carry the exact shape of twigs, complete with tiny bumps resembling bud scars. They lie motionless along branches, their bodies rigid, their stillness absolute. A bird searching for prey may pass inches away, fooled by the false outline. For these caterpillars, life is a theater of patience, an existence defined by stillness until transformation comes. Their mimicry is not simply about hiding but about waiting, about enduring the gaze of the world long enough to become something new. Other strategies are more sudden, more dramatic. Eye spots on butterfly wings appear dull when folded, but when spread, they flash startling circles that mimic the gaze of larger animals. Predators pause, startled, just long enough for the butterfly to escape. These eyes are not eyes at all, only patterns of pigment, yet they wield the power of presence. They remind us that fear itself can be borrowed, that sometimes safety lies in wearing the mask of another's power. Snakes, too, borrow survival from resemblance. Some harmless species bear the colors of venomous ones, their bright bands or blotches convincing enough to deter would-be attackers. The mimic lives because others have learned caution from the truly dangerous. It is a strategy built on memory and association, a biological bluff that works because predators cannot afford to gamble. In the silent undergrowth, where a wrong decision means death. Appearance alone can shift the balance between predator and prey. Camouflage and mimicry shape not only the lives of individuals, but also the rhythm of the forest as a whole. They allow prey to persist, predators to hesitate, and ecosystems to maintain balance through illusions. The jungle thrives on abundance, but abundance must be tempered by survival, and invisibility is one of its most elegant solutions. What we cannot see lives on, tucked into shadows and disguises, continuing the endless cycle. To walk slowly, carefully scanning the foliage, is to discover how incomplete our vision is. A leaf twitches, but no wind moves. A twig seems too symmetrical, too deliberate. A wing opens, flashing false eyes before vanishing again. The forest tests perception with every step, hiding more than it reveals. And in this act of hiding, life finds room to continue. Camouflage is not only about disappearance, it is also about boundaries. It asks, where does one body end and another begin? If a caterpillar becomes indistinguishable from a twig, is it not in some sense both? If a butterfly carries the gaze of something larger, does it not embody that creature for the instant it survives? The jungle dissolves the line between self and environment, reminding us that identity itself can be fluid, painted on like pigment, shed like skin. If a creature can vanish by becoming something else, what parts of ourselves do we disguise, and what truths remain hidden in plain sight, waiting for the right gaze to notice? Beneath the towering trunks and bright canopy of the jungle lies another world, quieter in sound but immense in scale. Ants, tiny yet innumerable, build empires hidden under soil and woven across branches. Their colonies are not just homes but civilizations, each with roles, hierarchies and strategies so intricate they rival the cities of larger beings. To pause and look closely at the ground or a tree's bark is to find highways alive with motion, small bodies carrying the weight of a forest's unseen labor. One of the most astonishing sights is an army ant raid. The ground seems to ripple as countless ants move in columns, surging forward with unstoppable force. Insects, spiders, even small vertebrates flee before the wave, flushed into the open. For birds, this chaos is opportunity. Certain species follow army ants faithfully, swooping down to catch the creatures trying to escape. The ants are predators, but they also become facilitators, feeding not only themselves but a whole guild of followers. Their raids reveal a strange generosity hidden within destruction, a reminder that one life's hunt may be another's feast. Elsewhere, leafcutter ants build societies based on agriculture. Their endless processions carry fragments of leaves high above their heads like emerald sails. The fragments are not food but offerings, carried underground to nourish a carefully tended fungus. This fungus is the true sustenance, cultivated with patience and precision. Within the colony, castes divide labor. Some ants cut leaves, others carry, still others guard the lines. Soldier ants, immense-jawed, patrol the columns, ready to defend against predators many times their size. It is a civilization within soil, one that mirrors farming practices we imagine as uniquely human, but that have existed here for millions of years. The health of these fungal gardens depends on invisible partnerships. On the ants' bodies live bacteria that produce antibiotics, protecting the fungus from harmful molds. This alliance, hidden under exoskeletons, ensures survival for both ant and crop. The discovery of these microscopic partners shows how even the smallest lives are woven into networks, where one species' existence is safeguarded by another's quiet chemistry. The ants are not only farmers but pharmacists, carrying medicines written into evolution itself. Ant colonies display another marvel, the creation of living structures. During floods, or when facing gaps in their trails, ants link their bodies together, forming bridges or rafts. Each individual surrenders autonomy, locking legs and jaws with neighbors to form a greater whole. Through this collective body, the colony crosses rivers, climbs obstacles, or survives torrents. The lesson is both simple and profound. Strength lies not in individuals, but in the willingness to merge into something larger, even at the cost of the self. These empires operate in constant motion, their success built on cooperation and relentless labor. Every ant knows its role, guided not by command but by pheromones and instincts refined through time. Their societies echo with discipline and adaptability, systems tuned to weather change and challenge. To humans they may seem mindless, but their collective intelligence builds wonders, bridges, farms, symbiotic partnerships that reshape the very forest they inhabit. To kneel and watch their lines, their bridges, their gardens, is to feel the weight of perspective, how easily we overlook the ground beneath our feet, forgetting that entire nations march invisibly below. Their world is smaller in scale, yet no less significant in impact. Ants turn leaves into soil, soil into growth, raids into feeding frenzies, trails into arteries of energy. They are not background but foundation, a quiet empire sustaining the jungle in ways most never notice. If ants can build worlds by merging effort and surrender, what larger empires might we be a part of, working invisibly, unaware of the vast design our small lives are contributing to? The jungle is a place of constant rivalry, yet just as often it is a place of quiet alliances. Beneath the struggle for light and food lies another truth. Survival here often depends on partnership. Symbiosis is the thread that binds unlikely companions, plants and insects, fish and shrimps, frogs and flowers, each giving and taking in ways that ensure both endure. To look closely at these relationships is to see the forest less as competition and more as collaboration, a web woven in shade. Consider the fig and its wasp, a partnership so ancient and precise that one cannot exist without the other. Inside each fig, fruit is a hidden chamber where the wasp lays its eggs, entering through a narrow passage. In doing so, it also delivers pollen from another fig, ensuring fertilization. When the young emerge, they carry pollen outward, seeking a new fig to repeat the cycle. The tree provides shelter and food, the wasp provides pollination. This mutual reliance is delicate, and yet it underpins the diets of countless other animals who feed on figs. A single partnership ripples outward to sustain birds, monkeys and bats, making the fig a keystone of the entire ecosystem. In freshwater springs and margins, where rivers soften into pools, cleaner shrimps work in service to fish. They set up small stations, waving their antennae to advertise their services. Fish approach and remain still as the shrimps climb over their scales, plucking parasites and dead tissue. The act seems almost tender, predator and prey transformed into patient partners. The fish leaves healthier, the shrimp well fed. These cleaning rituals echo across the forest waterways, quiet exchanges of trust that defy the logic of constant threat. Higher in the canopy, bromeliads create worlds of their own. Their leaf tanks collect rainwater, forming miniature ponds that teem with insects, larvae, and even amphibians. Some frogs deposit their tadpoles one by one into separate tanks, ensuring each has a safe cradle. In return, the bromeliad benefits from nutrients left behind by its tiny guests. Each rosette becomes a suspended garden, a habitat and a partnership, a fragment of ecosystem hanging in the air. These sky gardens remind us that entire communities can thrive in the smallest pockets, life cradled by life. Even relationships born of theft can turn beneficial. Some creatures visit flowers, not for pollination, but for nectar alone, piercing blossoms to steal without carrying pollen. Yet often, even these thieves become accidental pollinators, brushing against reproductive parts as they move. The plant loses nothing, the visitor gains energy, and the cycle persists. In the forest, even imperfect arrangements can sustain balance, proof that not all exchanges need to be pure to be powerful. These partnerships teach that survival is not always a solitary endeavor. Where resources are scarce, sharing becomes strategy. Where threats loom, trust becomes shield. Each partnership, whether born of precision like fig and wasp, or of convenience like nectar thieves, is another stitch in the fabric of the forest. Without them, the weave loosens and the canopy frays. To stand in the shade and watch these exchanges is to realize how deeply connection defines existence here. Nothing lives alone. Every tree, every insect, every drop of water carries the imprint of another life it sustains or depends upon. The forest is less a battlefield than a negotiation, its quiet contracts written in pollen, in parasites plucked, in tadpoles nestled in leaves. If creatures so different can live by giving and receiving, binding their futures together in delicate exchanges, how much of our own survival is woven from partnerships we barely notice? In the jungle where abundance thrives, danger is never far. Yet not all survival depends on speed or strength. Many creatures endure through chemistry and display, shaping their bodies into warnings, illusions, or quiet reservoirs of poison. Their strategies are messages written on skin, scales, and behavior. Touch me at your risk, taste me at your peril. Theirs is a world where survival often depends on being seen before being harmed. One of the clearest signals comes through apposematism, the brilliant colors that scream unpalatability. Frogs flash neon blues, yellows and reds against the damp earth, their tiny frames wrapped in warning. These shades are not for beauty but deterrence, teaching predators with every failed attempt that bright colors often mean bitterness, nausea, or worse. It is a dialogue between predator and prey, written not in words but in pigments, repeated until instinct itself learns to avoid the glow. The brightness that might endanger another animal becomes here the shield that ensures survival. Some species add theater to their signals. When threatened, a cobra spreads its hood, enlarging its profile in a display that halts predators in their tracks. Even smaller snakes mimic the gesture, flattening their heads, hissing loudly, transforming themselves into something larger than they are. The bluff is often enough. Most attackers hesitate before striking a body that seems inflated with defiance. This is survival through posture, through the performance of danger. The jungle, it seems, rewards not only substance but spectacle. In many cases, toxins themselves are borrowed. Poison dart frogs do not create their alkaloids in isolation. They gather them from their diets of ants, mites, and other small arthropods. The chemicals concentrate in their skin, repurposed into defense. What the frog consumes becomes its armor. This strategy reveals how interconnected survival truly is. The danger of one creature can originate from the chemistry of another, passed along a chain until it becomes identity. Even poisons are not self-contained, but part of the larger web. Then there is the notosis, the strange art of playing dead. Many animals, from opossums to beetles, collapse into stillness when threatened. Bodies limp, eyes glazed, scent glands releasing odors of decay. Predators, uninterested in carrion, may leave them untouched. This strategy turns weakness into survival, surrender into escape. It asks predators to move on by presenting not life but lifelessness, a gamble that often succeeds. In the jungle, where everything is in motion, stillness itself can be the greatest disguise. Each of these strategies reshapes the balance of life. Bright colors reduce predation, toxins ripple through food webs, displays of size deter violence, feigned death halts pursuit. Together they remind us that survival is not only a contest of claws and teeth, but of symbols, of chemistry, of signals recognized across species. The forest is alive with these conversations, quiet agreements negotiated in pigments and scents, gestures and silences. If creatures can turn their very bodies into language of warning, of bluff, of surrender, what signals are we sending without words, and who is reading them in ways we may never know? To walk among such creatures is to walk among stories written in skin, a frog that glows like flame, a snake that hisses wider than its body, an insect that collapses as though gone. All are telling us something, asking us to listen differently. Their messages are not directed at us, but we overhear them nonetheless, like eavesdroppers in a conversation about life and death. Along paths and branches, another form of communication persists: scent. Many animals mark territories with glands that leave invisible trails, mapping out where they belong. Jaguars rub against trees, monkeys leave subtle traces as they climb, and small mammals line paths with musky signals. These scents linger far longer than calls, creating invisible maps of ownership and warning. To follow them is to read a diary written not in ink but in molecules, pages turning with every humid breath of air. At the roots of towering trees, a peculiar rhythm often rolls through the air, drumming. Animals strike the hollow bases of buttress roots, and the vibrations travel far through the dense forest. Some primates and rodents use these natural drums to announce their presence, to warn rivals, or to attract mates. The sound resonates like a distant heartbeat, echoing farther than voices might carry in such thick growth. Each strike is deliberate, each rhythm a signature. To us it may seem like noise, to them it is language carried on wood. The jungle is never silent, even in the stillest hours, when mist hangs heavy and stars glint faintly through canopy gaps. The forest hums with signals. Creatures speak in ways subtle and profound, using air, soil, water, and even silence itself as carriers of meaning. Their communications are not meant for us, yet if we pause, we sense fragments of their conversations, coded messages written in sound, scent, vibration, and gesture. Other signals bypass sound and scent entirely, relying instead on movement. Birds flash tails or wings in sharp bursts, insects click or buzz their wings, deer stamp their feet, and small mammals slap the ground. These gestures carry meaning, warnings, courtship, or challenges. Even without words, the movements ripple across species, messages visible in motion. The forest is thick with such signals, flickers and beats that appear and vanish like sparks in the dark. These modes of communication overlap and layer into a chorus of meaning. Drums reverberate, scents drift, calls echo, gestures flash. Together they make the jungle not only alive with bodies, but alive with messages, invisible threads connecting one creature to another. Every action is both survival and expression, proof that existence here is relational, never solitary. Among primates, calls can be astonishingly precise. Some monkeys use different alarm calls for different predators. One sound for an eagle, another for a snake, still another for a jaguar. Each call sends group members into different responses, climbing higher, diving lower, freezing in place. Their voices are not just alarms but coded instructions, guiding survival with clarity. To realize this is to understand that the jungle holds languages layered within cries, languages not of words but of consequences. To listen with new ears, to smell with new patience, to notice every flick of a wing or foot, is to begin reading the jungle as a vast conversation, a place not of chaos but of constant exchange. Messages pass unseen, yet they shape movements, dictate choices, and maintain balance. Without these communications, the forest would unravel into confusion. With them it remains ordered in ways we barely perceive. If animals can weave entire languages from drums, scents, cries, and gestures, what languages might we be speaking without realizing? What signals are we sending silently into the worlds we move through? High above the ground, where sunlight filters in shifting mosaics and breezes move more freely, the branches of giant trees cradle secret gardens. These are the realms of epiphytes, plants that root not in soil but in air, making their homes upon the trunks and limbs of others. They do not strangle or consume their hosts. They borrow space, catching light where the forest floor cannot. To walk below them is to pass under suspended worlds, ecosystems hovering far above, hidden yet essential. Some frogs depend on these sky ponds for their young. A female may carefully deposit her tadpoles, one in each separate tank, ensuring that no sibling competes for food or air. She may return to lay unfertilized eggs as nourishment, a quiet act of devotion hidden among the leaves. Each bromeliad thus becomes both nursery and larder, a place where water and care combine to protect fragile lives. It is an act of trust between species, plant offering shelter, frog offering nutrients, each sustaining the other in subtle ways. Among the most remarkable of these are the bromeliads. Their leaves curl into tight rosettes, forming tanks that catch and hold rainwater. Over time, these tanks become tiny ponds, complete with floating debris, fallen pollen, and drifting insects. Entire communities take shape in these small reservoirs. Mosquito larvae wriggle, beetles paddle, and snails graze on algae. What appears to be a simple plant is, in truth, an entire aquatic ecosystem, a microcosm that mirrors the complexity of the jungle itself. Epiphytes are not limited to bromeliads. Orchids, with roots that dangle like silver threads, absorb moisture directly from the air. Their blooms, sudden and extravagant, flash like jewels high in the canopy, drawing insects and birds that would never reach the ground. These flowers turn empty air into opportunity, thriving where soil cannot reach. In their blooms we see persistence expressed as beauty, a defiance of gravity transformed into color. To stand beneath a great tree after rain and look up at its branches dripping with bromeliads is to sense the abundance hidden overhead. You realize that each droplet falling carries a story of tiny lives above, larvae wriggling, frogs calling, insects hovering at the water's edge. The forest does not exist in one plane but in many, stacked upon each other like secret layers of a dream. Sky gardens remind us that life is not bound by obvious limits. Where soil is absent, plants weave alternatives. Where space is scarce, they climb. Where water is fleeting, they catch it drop by drop. In doing so, they provide habitats that ripple through countless other species, multiplying possibilities. These elevated ecosystems are as vital as rivers or roots, holding biodiversity in forms both miniature and grand. The mats of mosses and ferns that cling to branches add yet another layer of life. These dense carpets catch falling leaves and fragments, creating tiny pockets of soil. Insects burrow there, lizards hunt among the fronds, and small mammals find cover. The canopy, often imagined as mere leaves and branches, becomes instead a layered city, each tier alive with its own networks. The forest is not two-dimensional but vertical, a column of interconnected homes from ground to crown. Life in the jungle dazzles with color, movement and song, But just beneath this display is another force, quieter and more constant. Decomposition is the patient work that makes all growth possible, the turning of death into nourishment, of endings into beginnings. Without it, the forest would drown in its own abundance, choked by fallen trees, unrotted leaves, and lifeless bodies. Instead, the jungle recycles with grace, weaving decay into renewal. If plants can build entire ecosystems in the air, cradling lives in cups of rainwater, what hidden habitats might we be holding unknowingly, offering shelter in ways we cannot yet see? Fallen logs become corridors of transformation. Fungi lace through their wood with invisible filaments, breaking down cellulose and lignin, substances so stubborn they would remain for centuries without such help. From the outside, a log may look still and inert, but within it, a web of fungal threads spreads like veins, dismantling matter into molecules. Fruiting bodies emerge, shelves, caps, delicate cups that scatter spores with every breeze. Each fungus is both destroyer and creator, releasing nutrients back into the soil, feeding roots that will grow into new giants. The forest floor is less graveyard than nursery, every log a cradle of the future disguised as a remnant of the past. Detritus feeders of all kinds join this cycle, consuming fragments of leaf litter, fruits too far gone, or bodies too small to notice. Millipedes, woodlice, worms, and countless insects form food webs of their own, fueled entirely by what others leave behind. They transform waste into richness, preparing the soil that anchors the entire forest. Without them, the canopy's splendor would falter, cut off from the nutrients it requires. They are the hidden orchestra beneath the music of birds and frogs, playing a deeper rhythm that sustains it all. Termites join this unseen labor with a precision of their own. They chew through wood, but not alone. In their stomachs live symbiotic microorganisms that can digest cellulose, a task most animals cannot accomplish. This alliance allows termites to recycle fallen branches into soil, returning what once soared above into the ground below. Their colonies, humming beneath bark and soil, are as vital to the forest's survival as the tallest trees. To hear them at work is to hear patience itself, the sound of transformation too slow for the ear, but essential to the world. Other recyclers move with more visible urgency. Carrion beetles bury small bodies of birds, rodents, or reptiles, carrying them into shallow soil where larvae feed and nutrients return. Their work may seem grim, but it prevents disease, clears space, and ensures that every life continues in another form. A beetle rolling or burying remains is not ending a story, but turning the page, ensuring the cycle continues. In their tireless labor, we see dignity in the smallest of undertakings. Decomposition is not absence, but presence in another form. It is a quiet generosity where fungi, termites, beetles, and worms accept what is finished and return it as possibility. The air we breathe, the soil we walk on, the very stability of the forest owes itself to this cycle of giving back. Death here is not an interruption, but a continuation, folded seamlessly into the whole. To walk through the forest after rain is to smell this process at work, the earthy scent of soil, the sweetness of rot, the faint musk of fungi. These fragrances are the perfume of renewal, signals of a system in balance. What may seem decay is in truth the very breath of life, the alchemy that keeps the jungle evergreen. If a fallen tree can transform into nourishment for a new forest, what parts of ourselves once shed might quietly feed the futures we cannot yet imagine? The jungle is not only a place of animals and plants, but also an engine of the planet itself. Its trees breathe moisture into the sky, its soils cradle ancient stores of carbon, its animals shape the very balance of what grows. To walk beneath the canopy is to walk inside a system vast enough to influence weather, to alter air, to hold time itself in its roots. The forest is more than local, it is global, threads of climate stretching far beyond the boundaries of green. From the broad leaves of every tree, vapor rises invisibly. Each drop of water drawn from soil and released into air becomes part of a current, gathering with millions of others until they drift as clouds. These clouds are not random, they flow inland in immense atmospheric rivers. Scientists call them flying rivers, streams of moisture carried across continents. Without them, rainfall would falter, farmlands would dry, and distant regions would thirst. The jungle is not simply wet, it is a source of rain itself, pumping water into the sky that returns as life elsewhere. The role of animals in these cycles is subtler, but just as vital. Frugivores, creatures that eat fruit and scatter seeds, decide unknowingly which trees dominate. Some species store carbon more effectively than others. Their wood denser, their lifespans longer. When birds, monkeys, or bats spread the seeds of these trees, they shape the forest's ability to hold carbon. In this way, the choices of a spider monkey reaching for fruit ripple into the air above us, influencing the atmosphere we all share. Even the trails animals carve through the forest influence climate in small but lasting ways. By opening corridors, they shape where grasses grow, where fire may or may not spread, how moisture flows through the landscape. Tapirs, elephants, even peccaries alter the paths of water and soil with every step. These patterns ripple outward, preventing or encouraging change, subtle adjustments that shift the fate of whole stands of trees. Climate is not only in clouds and soils but in hoofprints and footprints, each one rewriting how the forest breathes. All of these threads, moisture, carbon, movement, are woven together into a system that is both fragile and immense. The jungle does not simply exist within climate, it makes climate. To cut it back is to weaken the air itself, to unweave rivers, to release time from soil. To protect it is to protect the breath of continents, the balance of storms, the stability of seasons. Below the ground, in swamps where water stagnates and oxygen is scarce, peat forms. These dark, waterlogged soils are vaults of carbon, storing centuries of decayed plant matter. Left undisturbed, they hold their secrets for millennia, locking away what would otherwise fuel warming. Disturb them, and their release is immense, flooding the sky with gases once safely bound. The jungle's quiet floors are therefore more than fertile. They are keepers of memory, guardians of ancient air. Standing under dripping leaves, one might not feel the scale of these processes. The air is heavy, humid, filled with scents of earth and flowers. Yet above, in unseen currents, rivers flow through the sky. Beneath, in dark soil, carbon rests in silence. Around, animals carry seeds that will determine the forest's capacity for centuries. Every drop, every footprint, every seed is part of a vast exchange, one that ties our lives to theirs more deeply than we often admit. If the jungle can alter weather across continents, what unseen choices in our own lives ripple outward, shaping worlds far beyond where we stand? The jungle is not only a realm of animals and plants, but also a home to people who have walked its paths for generations. To them, the forest is not wilderness but kin, a place of knowledge, carried in stories, practices, and names. They read its patterns as clearly as others read books, and their survival is rooted not in conquering, but in listening. Their presence reminds us that the forest is not separate from humanity. It has always held human footsteps within its green embrace. Many communities carry traditions that safeguard the forest through restraint. Certain trees are taboo to cut, certain animals taboo to hunt, not because of scarcity, but because of respect. These beliefs, passed down through generations, act as invisible fences protecting groves, rivers, and nesting sites. What science frames as conservation, they have long practiced as reverence. In their taboos are sanctuaries, safe spaces where life continues undisturbed. Trackers move silently along trails, eyes trained on the faintest of signs, a bent blade of grass, a print softened by rain, a broken fiber clinging to bark. What seems like nothing to us is a clear message to them, a story of who passed, when, and why. They know whether the animal was walking calmly or fleeing, whether it was alone or with young. To watch such skill is to realize how much of the forest we overlook, how blind we are to the constant writing of movement upon soil and leaf. Calendars too are woven into the forest's rhythms. Harvests are not marked by fixed dates, but by signs in the land. The flowering of certain trees, the calls of birds, the migrations of fish. These cues align human needs with animal cycles, ensuring that gathering does not clash with breeding, that taking does not empty the forest. It is a dialogue with time that respects renewal, each season a negotiation between hunger and balance. People of the forest are not separate from its ecology but woven into it, shaping and being shaped in return. Their care does not always mean untouched landscapes. It means tended landscapes, places managed with fire, pruning, and planting. The forest we see is not only wild but also cultural, carrying the imprint of countless human hands that guided its abundance. Even names carry wisdom. Plants and animals are named not only for their appearance, but for their uses, dangers, or behaviors. A bird's name may hint at its call, a plant at its healing property, an insect at the harm it can cause. Each name is a doorway into relationship, a way of knowing that collapses the distance between word and world. Through language, the forest becomes intimate, each being acknowledged as part of a shared existence. Stories preserve more than entertainment. They encode maps and knowledge. Legends speak of rivers that flood suddenly, of cliffs hidden by vines, of animals that guide or warn. To outsiders, they may sound like fables, but to those who carry them, they are instructions for survival. A story told by fire becomes a compass in the dark, a safeguard against mistakes that would otherwise cost lives. Knowledge here is not kept in books but in memory, sung and spoken across generations. If people can carry centuries of wisdom in footsteps, stories and names, what knowledge are we carrying forward, and how will it shape the places we call home? To listen to their ways is to hear another rhythm of survival, one less about dominance and more about reciprocity. They show that knowledge can be partnership, that care can be action as much as reverence. Without them, the forest is only half itself, missing the voices that have always been part of its song. The jungle, for all its present abundance, carries a question about tomorrow. Its trees stretch high, its rivers swell, its creatures whisper and sing, but within every sound lies the possibility of silence. Futures here are shaped not only by storms and sunlight, but by choices, by the care or neglect of those who walk its paths. Yet alongside fragility, there is resilience, a capacity to heal if given the chance, a quiet persistence that reminds us of life's ability to return. One way the forest finds its future is through corridors. When fragments of jungle are reconnected by strips of trees, animals move safely again, carrying seeds, renewing diversity, weaving back what was torn. Jaguars find hunting grounds without crossing roads, monkeys pass between valleys without isolation, birds scatter seeds farther, knitting landscapes together. These green bridges are not only pathways but promises that what is broken can still be mended if threads are carefully rewoven. Gentle ecotourism offers another path, one that exchanges curiosity for protection. Visitors who walk softly among the trees, guided by those who know them, bring resources that fund care. Seedlings are planted, animals are monitored, clearings restored. What might have been lost to chainsaws becomes preserved through footsteps, photographs and stories carried outward. In this way, the forest earns protection not by being hidden, but by being valued for what it already is. At the heart of this renewal stand the communities who live closest to the forest, where guardianship replaces extraction, poaching falls, wildlife returns, and people thrive alongside. Care becomes livelihood, protecting nests, guiding visitors, tending nurseries. Each act of guardianship is both protection and possibility, proving that survival can be shared. The jungle's future is strongest when its people are its partners, when their well-being is entwined with the forest's breath. Even science listens now in gentler ways. Soundscape studies record the jungle's voices, birds, frogs, insects, flowing water, and track changes across years. When silence grows in recordings, it signals loss. When calls return, it signals recovery. These invisible archives allow us to measure health, not just in numbers, but in songs, teaching us that a thriving forest is a noisy one, full of layers of sound. To hear its return is to hear resilience itself, the forest breathing back into strength. Resilience is not only in corridors or policies, but also in the forest itself. Saplings sprout in abandoned clearings, vines race to cover wounds, insects return the dead to soil. The jungle carries an ancient ability to recover if disturbance pauses long enough, yet it also carries limits. Too much loss, too deep a wound, and recovery slows. Its future is not guaranteed, but it is possible if rest is granted, if reverence is restored. Light too shapes futures. Where artificial glow seeps into the night, pollinators falter, migrating birds lose their way, and rhythms stumble. By protecting darkness through night-dark policies and shielded lights, forests keep their balance. The stars return above, the bats and moths below. The cycles of bloom and pollination continue unbroken. Darkness, so often feared, is in truth another form of protection, a gift to the creatures who depend on night. To stand at dusk and listen to the forest settling is to feel this possibility. The calls of frogs rise, bats begin their flights, flowers open to the night. Futures are written here not in certainty, but in patterns, in resilience that waits for care to meet it halfway. What the forest asks for is not dominance but respect, not extraction but patience. If a jungle can return to life when given corridors, guardianship, listening and darkness, perhaps our own futures too are shaped not only by striving forward, but by resting, by caring, by allowing time to mend what we have torn. And now, after wandering through this green expanse of sound and shadow, we arrive at the edge of stillness. We have walked with jaguars and tapirs, flown with bats and macaws, lingered with orchids and frogs, and listened to ants and rivers tell their quiet stories. 100 small discoveries have unfolded, each one a reminder that the jungle is more than spectacle. It is a web of persistence, a place where survival is written in patience, in partnership, in song. The forest has shown us cycles, decomposition feeding life, floods turning land into rivers, corridors reopening paths for jaguars, and darkness returning balance to wings. Each cycle is not final but circular, a reminder that endings here are never only endings. They are beginnings, dressed in different forms. If we are quiet enough, we can feel that same rhythm within ourselves. What we shed feeds what comes next. What we rest becomes what another picks up. Think of how elephants shape forests with each step, how bats stitch the night together with silent wings, how orchids trick insects with fragrances that pretend to be love. None of them intend to remake the world, and yet through the simple act of living they do. We too leave traces with every movement, every breath, every small kindness or neglect. We carry seeds of our own, though we may never know where they fall, or what grows after us. At the beginning we asked a question that lingered in the background. If the jungle can carry seeds, signals and futures simply by being itself, what unseen currents carry us? Now after hearing of leafcutter empires, translucent frogs, sky gardens of bromeliads, and rivers that breathe clouds, the question softens but does not vanish. Perhaps the answer is not one to grasp but one to rest with, like a seed waiting for the right soil, like a call echoing longer than its source. So tonight, as you lie in stillness, let yourself rest inside that cycle. You are not separate from it. Your breath is part of air, shaped by forests. Your body is built from food born of soil and sunlight. Your thoughts even now ripple outward, shaping others in ways you cannot measure. You are a part of the weave, not apart from it. Breathe slowly and imagine the canopy above you, a place where leaves shiver with rainfall, where frogs call from hidden branches, where seeds drift silently into the dark. Imagine the river's slow pulse, carrying nutrients through roots and bodies alike. Imagine the chorus of insects, rising and falling like waves of static that never truly stop. These are not just sounds and sights, but lullabies of the earth itself. And when the forest grows quiet in your imagination, notice that the quiet is not empty, it is full of possibility. Just as a fallen log is not waste but cradle, just as a seed carried by a bat is not forgotten but planted, your stillness is not absence, it is a beginning waiting beneath rest. Close your eyes and let the jungle drift into dreams. We began with a question, and perhaps we should leave with another. If the jungle can turn every ending into a quiet renewal, might we too wake tomorrow carrying seeds of wisdom from tonight's rest? For now, let go. Let your body sink, your breath soften, your mind grow gentle. The forest holds its own balance. You may trust it to carry you. Sleep comes not as a conquest, but as a gift, as natural as the dawn chorus, as steady as rivers rising, as sure as leaves falling into soil. You'll wake a little wiser,